All right, so when we're separating our front shoulder, we're gonna take our big knife here. We're gonna count down to our fourth, between our fourth and fifth rib. All right, that's where we wanna make our cuts. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5. So 5's too far, 3's too short. So in between 4 and 5, you're gonna make a straight cut. Now you can use your hacksaw. If you've got a bone saw, you can use that. You can use how I'm using this hacksaw, or you can use the bandsaw, which you guys have seen me use in the past. All right, if you're using a saw style, it's easier, or just your knife and hacksaw, you're going to cut and remove, use your knife to cut and remove most of the meat out of the way first, and use your hacksaw or bone saw just to cut bone. That's the important part there, just to remove some of the work. Use your knife to cut meat and your saw to cut bone. If you start dinging your knife up on bone, you're going to have more repairs and your stuff's going to dull out faster. So there you go with that. So like I said, here we go. We're going to make our cuts between the fourth and fifth and make that straight down and separate. Alright, so that's where it goes. There's my path of least resistance. So I'm going to say there, through, and that's that straight down, 5. Boom, boom, boom. Make sure I don't get nothing down there. Good, no cuts. Cut there, boom. Alright. And what we're going to miss by doing this angle here, this guarantees we don't catch into our shoulder. Because remember, we're separating our middle section from our shoulder here. Alright? That's what's key. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this way some. Bring that down so I know straight down where straight is for me. Alright, so now I got my good line. And it's hacksaw time. And again, if you have access to a bandsaw or any other kind of saw, that's what you want to do. I'm going to come around this side, just make that cut. That way it's easier. I don't want to make a ridiculous cut. Kind of embarrass myself. Alright, as you've seen, this is a stainless steel meat saw. I just bought it on Amazon. I don't remember what it cost at the time. Alright, so I made a clean cut right through the bone. Bam. There's our front shoulder. There's the edge of there's our front shoulder here. Here's the very edge of our shoulder blade bone. Alright, you got some tip action there. We got our neck bones in there. Alright, we'll come back to that. Now we got our middle section broken down. 3 pieces. Front, ham, middle. Right. We have our front, our middle, and our ham. We remember we cut between the 4th and the 5th ribs straight down, just missing the edge of that shoulder blade for our front section. It's got our picnic, our buck roast, our pork shoulder, our neck bones. It has some country style ribs and then a hock. We've got our middle section here, which has our sirloin tip at this point still attached, our tenderloin. It's going to have our St. Louis ribs, our loin meat, our pork belly, and then we have our end there with our ham on it. You'll have a sirloin tip and then a rear end hock. All right. Now, because I'm in my home, I want to make sure I keep my meat chilled to a great temperature, folks. So I'm going to load up in my meat pan my sections I'm not going to work with and take them out to be refrigerated. And then we're going to come right back and get in on this middle section here. And we're going to cut out our I'll show you how to fabricate our chops, sirloin tips. How to break down the middle section of a hog. If you've got to this point, you're doing great. All right. It's a lot of weight. This hog dressed out at 210 pounds. We halved it. We brought our half in. We got cut down our cut it down in 3 manageable sections: middle, hind, front end. Right now we're going to look at our front end. We made a cut along our tenderloin all the way up to the very last rib. We're going to look at this top vertebrae on this end and go about 1 inch or 2 down. All right, I'm going to take my knife and just make a little mental mark there with it. All right, because that mark essentially is going to be my line that I want to cut clean across to. And if it helps, go ahead and feel free to score a line into that. All right, so you can cut this there. We're doing this in my kitchen. I have a bandsaw available, but my point in doing it this way is to show you that you don't always need one. I'm not going to go through and do a handsaw because I ain't doing that. You can use a handsaw, but what I am going to use to make this particular cut is a small electric saw that I bought a stainless steel meat cutting blade for. Alright, so when making this cut, I've got a couple of meat boards underneath there. I told you made that line right along your tenderloin to that last rib. Go down about 1.5 inches or so, make another cut or a scoring mark on that side so you can just visualize a straight line. So that's all we're going to do. I'm going to cut through till I hear the bones break and try not to tear up into my table, and then I'm done. Alright? That's all you got to do. So if this were, imagine if you were using a handsaw, you just make a clean stop, stop, stop till you hear it bust, and then you go. So I'm going to use this, and this we'll see how it goes this way, okay? All right, now clearly I got through all the bones, and I could have used my bandsaw to go a little bit deeper. My goal, though, is not to tear up a lot of my bacon. All right, so once you get through, boom, you heard that? Once I broke through those bones, she's alive. All right, so I took my electric saw here and simulated. If you didn't have one of these or a bandsaw and you had to use just a regular handsaw, you're going to take your cut and go 2 inches from this top edge vertebrae, 1.5 inches, 2 inches from the top vertebrae, make an imaginary or a real scoring line, and go to that last vertebrae along the flank in between your tenderloin, and you're going to cut those bones until you hear them break. Now, you should have heard that pop when I separated it. Boom, once you hear that, you can lay off the saw. At that point, when I say lay off the saw, it's time to bring out that big dog. All right, we're just going to make a clean finish raw. Hopefully, nice and easily separating, not messing up our bacon. Did we get through it all? There we go. There we go. You hear it? All right. That big breaking knife right there is just for that. You know, it's meant to take a little bit of beat. There we go. So we got our fresh side. Get a little more trim up there. Boom. All right. So now we got our fresh side and our ribs, and we got our loin. These are starting to look more familiar, right? That's what we're wanting. Get it down into pieces that you can recognize. Like I said, I've never went to a school or anything to learn how to do this. I just had some really good friends that were able to kind of square me away. All right, so up here we got our chops. We still, in this case, have our tenderloin attached. I'm going to leave that attached because I like, because I want to. I'm going to turn around moving forward and do the rest of my chops on the bandsaw. If you don't have that, you'll be able to, we'll talk you through that. But up until this point, here we go. So we're going to take our sirloin tip off. The sirloin tip, here we go, tailbone to the tip, I'm assuming. There's a knuckle right here at the end. I'm going to get my big breaking knife. I'm going to find that joint right before the end of it. Get my knife working in there. Look at that. It's a nice cut right between there. Yep. And we're going to cut her off. Where's the rest of that boy at? That's a saw piece cut too. That's going to be a saw cut too, fellas. For today anyway. I'm not beating up my good knife that I just got redone. Now if you notice, when I cut this off, there is going to be some bit of that tenderloin on there. It's par for the course, fairs. Alright, I just went through the bone to that point. Alright, and I'm going to take my knife and finish me off. Boom. That gives me a nice bone in. sirloin tip. I got a section of tenderloin right there, still attached if you were curious. That's gonna look nice. In this case, I don't want this boneless. I'm gonna leave this sirloin tip roast like this. If I want it, I guess I could do a few tip steaks, you know, run it across this bandsaw, boom, 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 and then I'm in the game with a tip roast. But since we've done some other hogs already, we have plenty of steaks in the freezer. I think this nice roast piece will look great. Be a great piece for us to go down with. So that's gonna sit off to the side. All right, from this point here, all right, so things we can do with our loin. We could take this tenderloin out and have an itemized specific tenderloin. I can leave it on, and then from here down, when I do my pork chops, I'll have bone-in pork chops, and then I can cut from here forward, and if I wanted to have a mock baby back or a short rack of baby back ribs, I can turn around and fabricate that out. 9 times out of 10 at this point right here, what I do is I start slicing steaks because they're just easier. The time consumption and whatnot is what it is. If you want to see more videos of some of these, and that's what we eat. We don't do a lot of baby back ribs. I'm not really a fan of it. I like it longer. I like this sirloin St. Louis. And I just generally don't like the extra time and work. It's only a one-man operation. Now, if you are a fan of those, send me some messages and we can cut them out and do some. All right? But for now, we're probably just going to go make steaks.